Hi, you're watching Georgia Alert. I'm Becca and I'm here with Tini and Marika. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
We'll start with the highlight of the week.
Yes, this weekend today especially is very intense with Salome Zurabishvili's, our president's case, which has happened. So, president's constitutional decision to appoint board members told by unprecedented court ruling. To discuss this, on July 22nd, the Tbilisi City Court ruled to suspend President Salome Zurabishvili's decree appointing Aghazis Karishvili as a member of the board of the High Council of Justice. The Georgian president was also deprived of her constitutional right to hold a new competition to appoint a new member of the High Council of Justice. This happened this week. The reactions from president's staff members and also parliamentary secretary was that this is a direct and illegal interference into the president's constitutional right to appoint the member of the High Council of Justice. They also addressed on society, diplomatic corps and international communities and international organizations, as well as OSCE and ODIHR, to the representatives to which have been observing the process of appointing them members, to react on this issue, because it's very crucial for us that what happened was very, very illegal, because it's not constitutional. So at first it is an arbitrary decision, which is not right. It's also the violation of the principles of powers, and also it's against our constitution as well.
Sure. This violated the separation of powers that the first body of judiciary branch has interrupted the president's decision. I think this case will be taken to the Constitutional Court. Well, Constitutional Court is actually the body who oversees the disputes between different bodies of the government, and in this case the president. But this whole situation underlines the fact just how broken the Georgian judiciary system is, and it is usurped by the government, by the parliament, and there is no real court in Georgia. Whenever there is a political situation and whenever we need an independent arbitrage, Georgian court has proved itself that they take the side of the ruling party. So we need the separation of powers, and the new government, whoever comes in power, or whether it's a coalition or a new party in leadership, its first priority should be to separate the powers, and we need a separate branch of judiciary power to be separated from these powers. And at the moment, Georgian Constitutional Court, sort of up to now, it had some independence, but recently, when the situation became obvious that the Georgian ruling party, the GD, is headed in a new direction, it's changing its foreign policy, and the president has intervened in certain situations, they've gone against the president and they've sort of made their political allegiance clear. So Constitutional Court also has been seized by the ruling country. That's the understatement in the CSOs at least. But still, there is some hope that the Constitutional Court will be improved. There are two different branches in this Constitutional Court, two different group of people, and one of those group is much better professionals, and the first one, yes, so we have some doubts about the first one, but yes, all in all, this judiciary branch, the rules, how it's formed, this by the High Court of Justice, this is not sufficient. In the future, this rule has to be changed, and this process of electing judges should be public, and we should more democracy should be involved in this procedure rather than simply just giving this power to the High Court of Justice, which is basically another body of government. This has to be put to maybe a more localized, more decentralized way. And yes, we need more American style of judiciary development rather than what we have today.
Yes, and just to mention, on Georgian charter, which was introduced by President Salome Zurabishvili, there is one of the points there is court system and how it needs to be changed. So opposition parties have signed this document, and hopefully when we win these elections, we'll be able to start this reform in the court, because it's very crucial for us and it's very important. In Georgia, we actually never had like this whole independent judiciary system, so it's very good that we'll be able to start this from hopefully this year.
If you remember previously, there were recently new Supreme Court members elected as well in the parliament, and those people are all the people who worked previously for the system, basically, for the prosecution's office or different parts of the system. This High Council of Justice does not serve its purpose really. It's just a sham sort of formality. The system elects its people, basically. There are not enough the defense attorneys in the courts, and the court decisions, of course, they tend to be on the side of the system in each case. So we need a whole new different system. As we can see now, even the president, even though she has the constitutional right to appoint the High Court members, High Court of Justice members, which then elects approves the justices and judges, the president was not able to do that at this point, because there is a political tension, and yes, the whole constitution is basically ignored at this moment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And yeah, we need big changes in the judiciary legislation.
What is our next news?
Well, moving on to our foreign policy, recently a Megobari Act was passed. As we know, in May, it was initiated by the Helsinki chairman, Republican deputy Joe Wilson. He initiated this Megobari Act, which the full name of the act is Mobilizing and Enhancing Georgia's Options for Building Accountability, Resilience and Independence, aka Megobari Act. Megobari means friend in Georgian. And this legislation was recently heard in the Foreign Affairs Committee, and it was passed by the majority and of 46 votes in favor and 6 against, indicating strong bipartisan support. According to some of the experts, it will soon be voted in the House as well, and it will become the law of the land pretty soon. Well, the congressman hopes that, and we also join his hopes, that this becomes a law of the land by the elections, because it is critical. This bill at this point contains very key points to Georgia. Well, firstly, it underlines the fact that Georgia, as a country, it has had a very important role as in the whole region, for the stability of the region, and it also underlines the fact that Georgian people, up to this point, since 1991, basically when we regained independence, we have always been close with the United States and the Western world. Georgian people have always pointed out their will towards the NATO and European integration, and recently the Senate's bill points that recently Georgia has declined in democracy, and foreign policies as well have been changed by the government. And in response to this action, this government's decision, Senator Wilson is basically calling for sanctions against certain political members, against certain government members or the influential figures who have power and who have used this power against Georgian democracy to be sanctioned by the United States. There is also a point in this Megabury Act which ensures that in case Georgian people improve the democracy in the country and improve their foreign policies and go back to the democratic ways, it envisions a future where Georgian people have less requirements, more free travel with the United States, better preferential trade with the United States, and basically this offers a closer relationship with US. And yes, this is a great incentive for the voters to choose and go back to the partners that we have been developing with by their aid. Also, this Megabury Act also envisions a new developmental aid package for Georgia. But at the moment, of course, we are still at the sanction stage. This act envisions that after it's been enacting, after the enactment of this act, within 90 days, there will be reports on certain individuals who will be sanctioned. Basically, the whole Department of State, Homeland Security, Defense Ministry, and the whole government of US is involved in this procedure. This is not just the Senate or one party or Republicans. The whole United States will be behind this act when it's enacted. And in Georgia, current leadership makes this document sound like this is a misunderstanding, a minor misunderstanding. This is what they say. This is not a misunderstanding, and this is not minor, certainly. This includes sanctions. At the moment, they are personally sanctioned through the State Department, and they can no longer travel in the United States. But this will have further consequences, and this will have much worse consequences for the political actors who are going against Georgian democracy at the moment. But it also holds a great incentive for the Georgian people that, yes, Megabury as friends will become closer with the United States, and we can travel, we can trade with the US on better terms. And let's hope that people see this incentive and use this chance to become even closer with the United States. And I don't know, what do you think?
Yes, definitely. And there's also, it enjoys bipartisan support, which is very important. And the Georgian dream might be extremely mistaken when they think that if Donald Trump wins presidency again, he will suddenly lift all the sanctions from the Georgian dream and embrace them. And they are openly saying that all problems with Georgia will be solved, our isolation. So their government's isolation from the world will end, and also that the misunderstandings with the United States will stop. Suddenly everyone will embrace Georgian Dream's autocratic legislation. And that's what they are preaching. They are most likely quite mistaken, because also the Megabury Act was initiated by pro-Trump Republicans, as far as widely reported, and it's a fact. But there's also another act, the Georgian People's Act by Senator Jean Shaheen, and it's going to be incorporated in the National Defense Authorization Act, which is great. And Senator Shaheen also, she plans on observing elections in Georgia now. I think the last time she observed elections in Georgia was 2012 when the government changed. So I'm certainly not sharing the Russian and Georgian dream conspiracy that Americans are planning on changing government in Georgia, but maybe it's going to be a good coincidence.
Yeah, maybe it's a good luck from her.
Yes, well, eventually the two acts, the Megabury Act and Georgian People's Act, might reconcile. and we really hope that it's done before the elections in Georgia, before October 26th, because the people need to see the effect of the Georgian Dream's undermining policies of democracy before they go to polling stations, definitely.
I will add on to that this is a bipartisan act because both parties can see the dangerous effect of authoritarian regime developing in Georgia. This is not only an issue between Georgia and the US, this is a regional issue. It could become that. And also the act clearly mentions that Russia and China are both gaining some influence in Georgia, and that is troubling to US. And US Trump's administration, we remember his remarks when it came to China, or the trade war with China, and of course, Trump has also mentioned that the last thing he wants to see is Russia and China united against the United States. So no matter what the Georgian Nightmare Party says that they hope, whatever their hopes are, they don't see, or maybe they see and they say other things.
Yeah, maybe.
But clearly, this document states the reality, what's going on, and they understand the threats. So this document also involves enhancing bilateral relations and support, meaning that providing security and defense support to counter Russian aggression. These words are clearly stated in the act. So we are at this stage. All the military training programs are frozen. The funding is frozen for the government. But in case there are a turnaround of things, we are going to see more help, more aid in the development of military development and security. So let's hope that Georgian people understand what's at stake here and what will be on stake in October.
Yes. To go back to Georgia, as we know, we had last week one opposition group which is united. It was Ahali Party, Drua Party, and Georgian Freedom. And after that, we had on July 17th, we had three more opposition groups which united. It is Lelo for Georgia Party, Anatolizes for People Party, and the newly launched Freedom Square. And they are joining forces ahead of the crucial parliamentary elections. So yeah, it's very important for every opposition party here in Georgia to understand the responsibility that we have, that we need to, every European vote must be protected, and if political parties who are not able to cross the threshold, these European votes will be lost. So it's very crucial for us, for opposition parties, to unite against Georgian Dream, this nightmare party. But it's not happening. These unities are not only happening in opposition. It's also happening in the Georgian Dream. People's Power, which is believed to be pro-Russian, Georgian Dream's proxy, they also joined forces with Georgian Dream, and they are also playing the same game. They don't want to lose their votes, and that's why they united, so that People's Power, they would not be able to pass the threshold of 5%, so it would be better for them to gain all the pro-Russian votes together for Georgian Dream. So yeah, this is all that is happening in the opposition. I also want to mention about Coalition for Change, which has been united already. We had last week, we had on Saturday, we had a big meeting where we discussed our programs, and we had like the whole day and whole night. We were working until 12 o'clock at night, and we kind of have understanding of what we're gonna do together when we go, when we win the elections, and when we will be able to discuss these topics in the parliament. parliament, and we kind of have one program which is still discussed, because there are lots of different views, even in our parties. In our own parties, we have very different views on things. So there is Georgian Charter, which three of our parties we agree on that, so we don't have many discussions about that. But other than that, we have lots of different aspects of social issues that we discussed, and we'll be announcing our program very soon to our supporters as well. So yeah, I wanted to mention that as well.
Yes, so we also have other internal developments in Georgia. For example, the government has summoned several Georgian fighters in Ukraine for interrogation under a classified investigation, and they are claiming that the Georgian fighters in Ukraine are taking part in the like plot of a constitutional overthrow, so it's a violent change of power, change of the constitutional order, and terrorism as well. And Mamuk Amamulashvili, the commander of the Georgian Legion, also said that the Georgian Dream has added around 300 fighters of the Georgian Legion to the wanted list. Well, we see that the persecution of Georgian fighters in Ukraine has been a thing for the government ever since the beginning of the full-scale invasion in Ukraine, and even before that, because the Georgian Legion has been there since 2014, and previously the government even threatened that they would strip the fighters of Georgian citizenship, because supposedly they are like fighting for foreign army. It's very telling that the only two governments going after Georgian fighters in Ukraine are Russian and Georgian. And well, yes, there's widespread reports that the Georgian Dream is really afraid of these people, because I don't think there's any fighter in Ukraine who supports the Georgian Dream. Quite the opposite. They see through them. They see that they are the Russian regime, and the Georgian Legion even distributed a statement that they're not fighting in Ukraine for Georgia to be Russified in the meantime. They're fighting for Georgia's future without Russia, and in the meantime the government Russifies the country. And there's also another important issue. Last week, the Georgian Dream, they had this official launching of the pre-election campaign. They have this new office, which they bought with tens of millions, and there they said that there are questions about the 2008 war, about responsibility, and the day after that they began initiating the parliament changes to a penitentiary code, which implies that people accused of change of constitutional order or threats to national security or terrorism are going to have no access to anyone other than lawyers, basically. So they will be held, I don't know how to pronounce it in English, but incommunicado is in Latin. In Belarus and Russia, we all know what happens to those lawyers. They are usually government agents posing as lawyers. So the fact that they are going after Georgian fighters in Ukraine and heavily restricting legislation about people who are imprisoned for constitutional change or violent change of power and terrorism makes us very cautious, because it's possible that they jail both the fighters in Ukraine as well as just any activist, including ourselves, and keep them without any access to loved ones or relatives or media or anyone. Yes, that's another development.
So they basically mean that the arrestees will have no rights. There are no constitution.
Definitely.
For the people who are against the government. That's what it plainly means. Well, this is no surprise at this point. Also, it's no surprise that they have not been supportive of Georgians who are fighting in Ukraine, because I don't know, has any governmental leader even visited Ukraine till now.
There were
other than
some
president.
I don't think the
remember.
president went to Ukraine.
The president has been appearing with Zelensky, but
Outside of Ukraine.
yes, but
yeah.
I don't know if any Georgian.
I think members of the parliament and even the speaker of the parliament were in Bucha, I think. But after a long argumentation with Ukraine in the initial months of.
Their policy has been like, let's not make Russia angry.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Even before they came to leadership, there are certain videos on the internet where their leader, Bidzina, is speaking about the funds which he used to basically fund the Georgian government, but in a way not to make Russia angry and to use certain, what is the name of the foundation they've used, I think, George Soros' foundation to somehow hide the funding that he was paying the Georgian government. And he's explaining this in the video, that we did this not to look bad with Russia, because as you know, I have business in Russia. And then he adds this. This is insane. He's not even thinking about the country's relationship with Russia or something. He's thinking about his own business interests with the oligarchs. To look good in the club with his friends. So this whole situation with Ukraine and Georgia, that we are not officially like supporting our fighters in Georgia. Sometimes, yeah, they praise these fighters. Sometimes they enact new laws against them and threaten to declare, basically take away their citizenship. This is all because of personal interests of people who are in power in Georgia, because they've made their money in Russia and they are friends with Russians. Personal relationships, they keep it with Russians, and of course they want to be on good terms with them. And they don't think about the country's foreign policy when it comes to the relationship between Ukraine and Georgia or Western parties in Georgia. They want to keep the power and they want to keep their money and be friends with the Russians.
We all remember how it's like when Russia invaded Ukraine. Georgian fighters were very happy to go there and fight for Ukraine. And we remember Georgian government statements like what they're doing in Ukraine, why they need to be in Ukraine, why Georgian citizen needs to fight in Ukraine. So yeah, it's been happening for a long time. We also know that Georgian Legion leader was poisoned like 2 months ago, probably. Mm-hmm. He was also poisoned, and lots of Georgian fighters in Ukraine always say that they are scared to come back to Georgia because Georgian government, as Russian government also, they have them in wanted lists. So we have like Telegram channels where we see Russian Telegram channels where we see Georgian fighters who are in the wanted list, and they say that whoever assassinates them, they will get money. So it's very normal thing for Russians to do such kind of things. Since we started about Russia, Russian Deputy Chairman of the Federation Council, Andrei Klimov, had an announcement. He was attending one of the events at the Russia Club in Moscow, where also Georgian man is also there. I don't remember his name. Let me see. It's
doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
actually.
doesn't even matter. Okay. So in this club, in this event, he said that Russia is ready to help Georgia if Georgian dream to retain the power if Tbilisi asks Moscow to do so. And he gave the parallel of Syria. In this case, Syrian president asked Russia the same thing when the forces wanted to overthrow the government of al-Assad, and yeah, it was kind of very strange parallel because in Georgia no one wants to overthrow the government. But yeah, Russian deputy chairman says that if Georgian Dream asks to do for military assistance, they will be more than happy to do so. We know that with UN Charter, it's a violation of UN Charter to interfere with external forces in the internal affairs. So Russia has violated this UN Charter in Syria, and they are more than happy to do here the same in Georgia.
Yeah, and then there's another development in Russian-occupied Abkhazia, which is de jure, of course, Georgia. There's this port of Ochamchire, which Russia plans on like reconstructing and constructing for its navy that has been like squeezed out of Crimea. Slava Ukraini. So Russians are now hoping to make Ochamchire their naval base, and for like ever since Abkhazia de facto broke away from the rest of Georgia, there has been the issue of foreigners being able to buy land there. And the Abkhaz have been resisting that attempt quite a lot and quite hard. But now finally, it seems like, especially in the area surrounding Ochamchire, foreigners will be allowed to purchase land and apartments. And there have been protests about it now in Abkhazia, because it's evident that it will be Russia who will be capitalizing on the property and lands there for its naval port. But also on the level of conspiracy, maybe there could also be some Chinese influence, because just 36 kilometers away from Ochamchire, in Georgian controlled territory, but still that close to Ochamchire in the Anaklia deep sea port, now Chinese company is going to manage the Anaklia deep sea port essentially. Which is sanctioned by the United States, I suppose.
For not implementing the construction work, and they have, I think, debts for that's in another country.
And and I think they took over a port in Sri Lanka because Sri Lanka failed to take all the financial responsibilities there. Well, just to state, our Coalition for Change, is very much for trade and partnership with China. We are just cautious about handing over strategic infrastructure to countries whose governments do not share same values as the people of Georgia. Yes, and in addition to the Anaklia deep sea port, the Chinese Communist Party now expressed interest in the Vaziani airport, which is the key military airport serving Tbilisi. So yes, it should be taken with caution, definitely, and not just with China, but if any country takes your strategic infrastructure, especially if the country is not an ally in terms of security and geopolitics, and if we are moving towards NATO, and that is in our constitution, then we don't know what relations will be between China and NATO, so we cannot sit on both chairs at the same time. I think that was it with Russia and China. This just to add with a couple of words. So this Russians pledging military support to the Georgian Dream in case the Georgian Dream invites them. Well, it's a big debate whether Russia is even capable of doing so. On the other hand, there's also a debate whether Russians would need a lot of people to do that. But I would just like to underline that Georgia is not Kazakhstan or Syria or Belarus, in the sense that in the sense that those people who serve the regime right now, most of them still do not realize that they are serving a Russian outpost in Georgia. And if you bring actual Russians to Georgia and make Georgian security sector fight Georgians together with Russians, like actual Russians, that's going to be a whole new level of things, and it's not going to be easy. If it were easy, I'm actually pretty sure that the Georgian Dream would already have brought Russians inside the country.
Yeah, and actually during the protests, I overheard people saying like, these people who beat us up, they're so scary that they might be Russians. And there's kind of conspiracy theory going on that the people who are so violent at the protests, they're Russians, not Georgians. So it's kind of like our positive view on Georgian people, or I don't know what. But yeah, it's kind of, it sits in people's minds that whatever is violent comes from Russia and not Georgia.
Well, it has some logic because Georgia is a very small country, very tight-knit society. Everyone knows everyone, and all those policemen there, they have even family members standing at the demonstrations. And for all those reasons, I often say that whatever counts as violence in Georgia might be like just another day in many other countries, because
in France.
Yeah, because we have very low tolerance for any kind of violence, and that is why while the system is not unconditionally loyal to the regime, and it's mostly about benefits and situationship, then if you add violence on top of that, it's a very hard toll on the people there in security. I'm not saying it in the idealistic sense that Georgian policemen are somehow different from policemen in other countries, and they are like, I don't know, idealistic or something, but pragmatically speaking, like they have lots of constraints in deploying a lot of violence. For example, if Viktor Yanukovych could think that he could gamble and he could crush the 50% of the country with another 50% of the country, because back then Ukraine's foreign vector was split, then like Georgian Dream cannot really have hope in that, because whatever small support they still have left, part of it is due to still portraying themselves as pro-Europeans and still portraying themselves as not too bloody. So if they go full in about violence, it's a losing card for them. Yeah.
Actually, this situation with Russia and China, this is sort of there is irony in this, because this is the ruling party, which says that they are not trading their sovereignty for the membership in EU and with the partnership with the Western world, and yet they are trading with sovereignty and with key strategic interests with the authoritarian regimes. So giving up these strategic points, this is dangerous to the Georgian development, the future of the politics in Georgia. But certainly we should maintain some relationship with China, especially the economic relationships even with Russian people. When they arrived in Georgia during the war, they came here as refugees, and the people, some of them, they bought the lands, they bought certain properties, and they are on their way to become part of Georgian community, basically. Well, Georgians do not like so many Russians in Georgia.
But still, they
yes.
benefit from that.
Yes, the economy benefited as well, and the people, yes, the Russians, I think they understand the Georgian anger, because we've been fighting Russian imperialism since 1921, and Georgia,
even before that.
But in 1921, Georgia basically regained its independence. It lasted for like 5 days, and then Georgia lost its
3 years,
independence.
actually, not just 5 days.
We had the constitution enacted at that time, but that first constitution was only effective for 5 days. Then the Russian Red Army came into Georgia. They destroyed our republic again. And after basically 1 century again, in 1991, we reclaimed our independence. And ever since it's been a tension, or we had a war in 2008, then we saw the Russia invade Ukraine, and it's always been on the verge of conflict with Russia. So when we saw thousands of Russians and hundreds of thousands actually who came in during this war, people were angry at them. But still, we should maintain some relationship with the people, with the actual people, Russians. But when it comes to trading our sovereignty for safety, this is out of the question. Russia will not, and when they say that they will help us if we need their military aid, we should take it as a threat, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They're threatening the public in case there will be some collision with the government. They are ready to intervene to protect their puppets, basically. That's what that statement means.
Yeah,
but we are not
most probably
afraid.
just scaring us.
Yes.
Yes.
No matter how much they try to scare us, Georgian people are not afraid of Russians. Because we've been in war for centuries now against them, and this is a righteous war for Georgia. We are protecting our independence, our sovereignty, and it does not matter how long it takes. We know that this war will end in our victory, and if they somehow try to intervene, well, this opens up a possibility for the Western help as well. And this UN charter certainly allows the Western world to help us defend our sovereignty.
Yeah,
So,
but like
I don't think Russia can afford to be in war on so many fronts, and Georgian ruling party at the moment, they are praising themselves and patting themselves on the back that they are the ones keeping the peace between Russia and Georgia, but this is an absurd. They are not keeping anything safe. They are preserving their own power and status and money. Other than that, Georgian people are still trying to escape Russian imperialism, the authoritarian regime in Georgia, and we are looking forward to the Western partnership, and yes, I hope the United States clears their own domestic situation so that they are ready to look further overseas and see the threats that are developing between this region, between the Middle East, between Europe, Ukraine. So yes, we need the big boys to deal with the big issues.
Yes. I think that's it.
That's it for this week.
And thank you for watching us. Please follow us on Twitter/X, Georgia Alert.
Thank you.